The moment I stepped into my wife's office party, a tangible tension seemed to hang in the air. No one said anything outright, yet the glances, hushed whispers, and subtle stares made it clear I didn't quite belong. Emily, my wife, had been distant for months. Late nights at work, urgent weekend meetings, always brushing off my questions with a quick kiss and some excuse. Tonight, I wanted to surprise her, to remind her that behind all her corporate responsibilities, I was still her husband. What I hadn't expected was to see her boss, Brad, draping an arm a little too comfortably around her waist as he introduced her to a group of colleagues. Brad had that air of self-importance, slick hair, tailored suit, and a grin that reeked of arrogance. He finally noticed me, feigning surprise. "Oh, so this is Emily's husband," he said, voice dripping with mock curiosity. "You're the contractor, right?" The word contractor felt like an insult. Polite laughter followed from those around him, and Emily's face drained of color. I smiled, keeping my composure. He had no idea who I truly was. I extended my hand. "That's right," I said calmly. "I manage a few properties around town." Brad's handshake was firm, almost forced, as if to assert dominance. "Good for you," he said with hollow encouragement, the kind of feigned support people like him offered when they believed they were superior. Turning back to Emily, he ignored me completely. "You've got yourself a hardworking man, huh? Probably builds a mean deck." Laughter rippled through the group. Emily shrank under the attention, embarrassed, yet said nothing. That silence stung far more than his words. The rest of the evening became a display. Brad tossed out small jabs at blue-collar workers, people who labored with their hands, and each time, Emily nervously giggled or averted her eyes. I remained calm, polite, even charming, not just a husband accompanying his wife, but the silent majority shareholder of the company, the one who had built the very firm Brad now managed before stepping back to let others handle daily operations. I had stayed anonymous deliberately, observing how management treated others when they thought no one was watching. Tonight, everything revealed itself. When dinner began, I stayed quiet as Brad boasted about record profits, his leadership skills, and his subtle digs at subordinates. Emily tried to redirect the conversation, but he always returned to himself. Halfway through dessert, he leaned toward me. "So," he said, "how does it feel to have a wife who earns more than you?" The table fell silent. My jaw tightened, yet I smiled. "Feels great," I replied evenly. "Especially since every paycheck she earns comes from my company." For a moment, no one moved. Brad let out a loud, uneasy laugh. "Ha, that's funny," he said. I leaned back in my chair, unamused. I then turned toward the CFO a few seats away. "David, you might want to remind Brad who signed the acquisition papers 3 years ago." The CFO's eyes widened. "Sir, I didn't realize you were here tonight. My apologies." The word "sir" rang through the room like a gunshot. Brad's confident grin vanished. Emily's fork clattered against her plate. I stood, adjusted my jacket, and fixed Brad with a steady gaze. "I built this company from the ground up. The properties you manage, the projects you boast about, they're mine. And I've been watching you closely." His face paled. "You've been mocking employees, undermining your team, and apparently flirting with married staff at company events. That stops tonight." I glanced at Emily, whose eyes reflected guilt and shame. "Submit your resignation by Monday. If you don't, I'll make sure everyone knows the truth." The room was frozen. Brad stumbled for words, finding none. I looked at Emily again, flushed with humiliation. "Enjoy the rest of your evening," I said and walked out, leaving whispers trailing behind me. Outside, the cool night air hit my face. Anger faded, replaced by something sharper, disappointment. Emily returned home later, mascara streaked, eyes red. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. I studied her for a long moment, "Because I wanted to see who you'd become when you thought I wasn't watching." She began to cry, reaching for me, but I stepped back. "That night, I didn't expect loyalty from your boss, Emily, but I did from my wife." I slept in the guest room, not from anger, but clarity. Sometimes, you don't need to raise your voice to make a statement. Silence and truth are louder than any words.